1 at WHP 580.
All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Are you a CEO, CFO, or other executive facing these or similar charges?
Why should you go to jail for a crime someone else noticed? You don't need double talk. You need blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. No habla español. Well, we're not here to talk.
There you go. Bob, blah, blah. Bob, blah, blah, right? And he has a law blog. Bob, blah, blah's law blog. Anyhow, Carl Rominger here, answering your legal questions. 540-0580. Call on in and get on the air. And I want to thank you, to Braxton Diddy for coming on yesterday when I hosted Bob Durgan. Originally, we were going to have the Rumble on the radio at 4:30, and then I ended up substituting anyhow, so I was there for the whole 3 hours yesterday afternoon. And at 4:30, Braxton Diddy came on. Of course, you can catch the podcast of that. So if you want to hear police officer versus lawyer. Now, we billed it as a smackdown, but some people are calling it a love fest. It's hard to say. There was a little... What do you think, Shane? Was it a love fest? It was more of a smackdown than a love fest. Good. That's what I thought too. But some of the listeners, they can't tell whether somebody loves them or is smacking them. This seems probably why they end up in court once in a while. May not understand how to express their affection adequately. Oh boy. Anyhow, we got a pension question here, huh? Who we got there? Let's see. Want to talk about your pension? Bob. What's going on?
How you doing, Carl?
Good.
Got a question about when you leave a job.
Yeah.
Your 401, it's not a 401k, it's your retirement.
Okay.
Now, what the situation is, a friend of mine actually got fired because they updated, and she's been at the place for 37 years, so they got rid of some of the older employees.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what they told her, she could not have her money in a lump sum, that they would pay her like a paycheck every week until she got it all. Is that legal?
I don't know. What kind of retirement was it?
It was like a 401k, I guess.
Well, if it's a 401k, then the money should be in an account, so that she could just roll over. The
other thing too is they would not tell her how much was in that account.
Right. Interesting.
And that just seemed really screwy to me.
That does seem kind of screwy, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Something doesn't seem kosher. I think she should probably have somebody look it over.
Now, she did say she went talk to a financial advisor, and he said, well, just do it this way. And I said, but that's your money.
But the financial advisor would know if it was being done properly or not. In other words, you would think that if it was being done improperly, he would tell her.
Well, you would hope.
But now you're running into what I call the concept of the conspiracy of a million, right? I mean, listen, if you talk to one person who has all the details, which I don't, and it doesn't sound like you can give me all the details, and they say, well, this is the way we're doing it, well, that's the employer. They could be lying. And then you go to your financial advisor who then says one of two things. Nothing here bothers me, or the financial advisor says, well, they're not doing it right, but as long as they pay your money, let's just live with it. I don't know which one he said.
Okay.
But here's my point is, if you don't think it seems right, but 10 other people think it seems right, you might be the one in the wrong. And again, we don't have all the details.
Right.
All right?
All right.
That's my theory.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
All right, boss. Good luck. 540-0580. I call this a conspiracy, theory. Somebody says, well, I talked to this lawyer, and I talked to this CPA, and I talked to these guys, and I talked to everybody else, and I talked to my doctor, and none of them have it right. I don't want to be like, well, I guess you're now the expert because you can know when everybody else is wrong, and why do you even go confer with these people? And I'm just trying to point out that, if it seems kosher to a financial advisor, and that's the way the employer's done, it doesn't mean it's 100% kosher. And I can imagine a scenario where, let's say the employer didn't do what they were supposed to do with the money, but they're going to make good on it. Why cause them an issue if they're going to make good on it from a practical standpoint? Bottom line is you need to be made whole first. And if you get the employer in trouble or cause them some kind of issue, then the odds of you being whole would be close to zero, and that wouldn't make much sense. What else do I want to say about the Supreme Court of the United States decided a case this past week, and of course the big ones are yet to come. You cannot patent a gene. Merely locating and removing the gene from the biological system is not enough for a patent. It makes a big difference because now anybody who can take an isolated gene, re-isolate it, and make tests from it, et cetera, on the other hand, they left open the ability to patent what they call cDNA, which is a little lowercase c, which has to do with taking a piece of DNA and editing out the unnecessary portions and making a new strand that's basically shorter but does what it's supposed to do. And since that's not, quote, naturally occurring generally, although some other people are suggesting you're just editing more out, so instead of just snipping at the ends, you're now snipping in the middle someplace for non-coding sections. So it almost seems like a distinction without a difference, but it does allow for some wiggle room perhaps to have some types of DNA patents. This is important because if somebody holds a patent on DNA, then on a particular strand, for instance, the codes for a disease, you could only get one test made because they were holding up the ability of other people to do it. So it's a big decision. It reverses 30 years of what the Patent Office has been doing in many cases, and it will cause a major break in the medical community in the sense of a major break forward for people to begin using DNA snippets that other people had claimed patents in the past. 540-0580, Carl Rominger answering your legal questions. Bill, you're on the air.
Hi, Carl. Question about a friend I've been trying to locate. I went on the internet and there's just can't find him whatsoever. What would that cost be if you try to locate him? I want to find out if he's alive, dead, or whatever.
Well, usually we would send you to a private investigator to do something like that.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, private investigators are the people who are good at locating people.
How do they go about doing that?
Well, I mean, if I knew everything they did, I guess I'd be a private investigator.
Yeah.
But what they do is they have access to various databases, which would show where the person has lived. So, we've been making a lot of fun of the NSA lately and all their big databases. But I can get you access to, and private investigators have access to, databases where they cross-reference billions of public records.
Okay.
And you can start finding out things like if this person has lived anywhere. And so if you're looking for the same person, let's say his name is, Bob Durgan, and he's, 68 years of age or something, and you start looking around, you might realize that, this is the wrong Bob Durgan because his birth date's wrong, or this is the wrong Bob Durgan because it's showing that he lived in Texas, and I know he never lived in Texas, but across the other 100 in the country, you can start to narrow that down. And obviously the more information you have, and the more information that person has shared in public, the more likely you are to hit them. But it gets even better than that. Sometimes you can see, for instance, who their neighbors were when they lived at a location. You're sure that's the right guy? You call the neighbor up and you say, hey, I'm looking for your old neighbor so-and-so. Well, we haven't talked to him in years, but he sends us a Christmas card every year, and we send one back. Let me get the address. So that's the kind of things they do to hunt them down.
Right. I got one more for you. I have a will made out. Okay. And my wife and I have been keeping separate accounts, money accounts in the banks.
Okay.
But lately, I transferred this one account, and we have two names. We have both of our names on it. Now, if let's say I die, I guess the question is, would she be able to claim that as part of her money, even though the percentage left to her would not be the same? You know what I'm saying?
So, if you're both on the account, right?
Yeah.
And are you on the account as joint owners with right of survivorship?
We just went to the bank and they just put our both names on it. Period.
Yeah, well, I'd have to know how it's strictly titled. If you're both on it and it's a joint account with right of survivorship, which I'd assume it is probably. Mm-hmm. Then it all goes to the survivor.
I see.
Outside the will.
Right. Oh, okay.
Okay. By the way, somebody just Facebooked me and said go to pipl.com. pipl.com. pipl.com.
Okay.
And he says that's the best way he knows of to find people.
Oh, very good.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
540-0580. We get back from break. We'll keep taking your calls. Welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. Answering your legal questions. As you know, I'm a lawyer from the Mid-State. Of course, you can look up our Rominger & Associates page on Facebook. We always welcome friends. Lots of exclusive content there. Also, my personal Facebook page, Carl with a K. Rominger's Rominger. And you can go to romingerlaw.com. And throughout the week, if you need to get a hold of the office, it's 241-6070. Again, that's in the 717 area code, 241-6070. Also, want to thank Mark Virginis for being a sponsor of the show. Jim, you're on WHP 580.
Hi, Mr. Rominger. Mr. Rominger, a while ago, it was a couple months ago, it was a question about, like an employment question, when you are, like I say, you're written up and you get those verbal warnings and you have to have you sign the paper. And I remember you telling us what to write or what would be, like, if you didn't do whatever it is and you have to sign it, you feel like you're going to court or something. What should you really
You mean
write
when they want you to sign an acknowledgement of disciplinary action or whatever? My advice has been to sign the paperwork, but to say, I dispute that this incident occurred, or I dispute the truth of this allegation, and then sign.
Okay.
Not because a lot of people make the mistake of signing it, thinking somehow that they have to, quote, sign it, and that's the employer's version of what happened or whatever. And then when we get to the unemployment compensation hearing, they whip it out and say, see, she signed an acknowledgement that she disobeyed a direct order or that she didn't divulge whatever.
So even though you do sign it and you write that down, can they still? So it still helps because you're writing that down.
Well, you're acknowledging that they are telling you this. Okay. In other words, you're signing it to acknowledge that you received a warning, but you're also protesting the validity of it.
Okay.
You can also just refuse to sign it. You don't have to sign it.
I thought that you had to sign it because where I'm at, they give you pressure, and we did.
Well,
do.
I mean,
people don't know this stuff. They don't.
Well, yeah, and I understand, and it's sort of like one of my yo-yo clients the other day talking to the police again.
Wow.
I'm like, didn't we go through that conversation? Or why are you talking to the police? Why are you admitting to the crime? Like, there's no benefit, and all due deference to Braxton Diddy, who was in yesterday. There's some leniency for. Listen, if there's going to be leniency, we can do the admission later. Okay.
Wow.
And we didn't talk about this yesterday, but if you really have a great explanation, but it still may put you in some jeopardy, what we do is called a proffer meeting. So anyhow, my point on this is just with employers, police officers, anybody, you're always better off. Now, don't lie. Lying is the worst thing you can do.
Right.
Telling the truth is the second worst thing you can do. The best thing you can do is lawyer up. All right?
Right. Thank you so much.
Good luck. 540-0580. Teresa.
Hi. I have a question concerning my condo.
Okay.
I live in a condo here in Harrisburg, and about repairs that need to be made to the outside of the building, and whether we can be forced as a homeowner to pay for these repairs.
Absolutely, but let me explain.
Okay.
If you turn the house upside down, the joke is, everything that doesn't fall or move probably belongs to the condo association.
Mm-hmm.
But you can be, if you're asking, what about outside the condominium? Well, the answer is all that maintenance has to be done by the association.
Okay.
So someday your roof's going to need fixed, right?
Right.
And if there's not enough money in the sinking fund or whatever savings fund they have to fix the roofs at the condo association, they'll surcharge everybody.
Right.
And you'll get a bill in the mail that says we need $3,000 from each resident to pay for the new roofs.
And is that legal? Do you have to pay that?
If you don't, well, let me ask you a question. What did you think you bought when you bought your condominium?
I have always thought that you owned the inside of the building only.
Okay, who pays for the outside of the building?
I thought that was covered by their master policy.
By the association.
Right.
But the association is made up of who? You and everybody else who lives in the condos.
Okay.
See what I mean?
Right.
So you join the group, and now that you're part of the group, if the group runs out of money, so it's sort of like you and I started a company together, and we need some money because we're out of money. Things haven't been as profitable as we planned. who's going to put the money in? The stockholders in the company are going to be requested to send in more equity, or the partners are going to be requested to put in more money.
Okay.
And if we don't, the company fails. And in your case, the roof caves in, and it doesn't matter what you own on the inside anyhow. So conceptually, if you think about it, that's why sometimes people are like, well, I don't know what my condo association does, or I don't really have time to be on the board or to be bothered with those things or go to the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be checking out the finances and going, okay, do we have enough money? A roof on a building only lasts for so many years. So what's our plan? I mean, and so in a well-run association, they carry insurance, obviously, so if there's a hail strike or something, it can be fixed. But in the meantime, they have a plan, and they say, okay, our roofs have a 30-year lifespan, so we're going to put, $5,000 per building into a fund for the roofs every year. And those association dues should be building up into a sinking fund or a deferred maintenance fund or a maintenance fund that would be available for those sorts of things. So it's really important to know the health of your association.
All right. Well, I think something is wrong there. We just got a new one last year.
Uh-huh.
We switched to another one. And what basically happened was we were told last summer that extensive repairs needed to be done to the outside of the building. They have secured a loan and asked us to pay for this over a period of time, in our monthly fee.
Right.
Everyone voted on it. It was voted down. They did not receive the 51% needed to pass it.
Right.
So now we received a letter stating that each homeowner has to pay for their portion of the loan in full in 30 days.
Right.
And my question is, if you cannot do that, can they put a lien against your home and sell it?
Yeah, eventually. Absolutely. They can sue you for a breach and eventually liquidate you. Yep.
Okay. Not what I wanted to hear. But.
Yeah, I know. And that's where people make the mistake. They don't, so the association probably should have done a better job of educating everybody to point out that if you vote this down, here's what's going to happen to you.
Right.
Might not be too late to revote on it.
I think we have a couple of days, and that's basically what they said. You can revote, but regardless of whether you vote yes or no, the project is moving forward.
Right.
And, you owe the balance still. Right,
and that's the problem, because as long as it was done properly through the organization, you look at your bylaws, and the organization has power to spend money and do things on a day-to-day basis, then certain things require, like that approval of the majority.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously the loan went through.
Yes, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your view, I guess.
Right. Now, the flip side is, as you got to imagine, is someday something has to be done. So I've had people call me up, and they have a $12,000 assessment from their condo association. And they're like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, everybody in the condo association pays $12,000 because nobody bothered to save up money in the last 25 years to plan for this. So I guess, and this isn't going to help you, okay, but anybody who's listening who's moving into a place that has a homeowners association or a condo association, you have to really pay attention to the health of that organization, both as you live there and before you move into there.
Exactly.
All right?
All right.
All right, Teresa. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
540-0580. John, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. What's going on?
Hi, Carl. Before you were talking about a Supreme Court decision and, decisions that and the person before that was talking about something that, if somebody tells you this doesn't sound right and then somebody else says you're just one of the million. And I just want to bring up that on the 28th of June last year, the Supreme Court of the United States said Obamacare is perfectly legal.
Right.
However, nobody sued for Obamacare saying that it gives a deferment or an exemption if you are certain religions, flat out. And that is against the First Amendment of the United States and was affirmed in Brown versus Board of Education in 1947 by unanimous decision.
Well, so nobody's raised the issue yet.
That's right. So essentially, they say that if you're certain religions, you're not subject to Obamacare. And in Brown versus Board of Education, 1947, majority opinion said you can't give certain religions a preference. You can't give all religions a preference or no religion a preference, period. So that's all I wanted to say.
Right. And just so you understand, I mean, laws are valid until they're challenged and there's a successful challenge, and courts only decide cases and controversies, and unless somebody raises the issue. So I don't know why, if you're sure it's a clean win, well, you need to get out there and raise the issue.
Well, if all I'm saying is that's the issue. And, okay, do you want to give a fixed price on suing the federal government on the phone, on the radio here?
Well, I mean, how you sue the federal government, you have to actually, be affected by it, right? So
everybody's affected by it if you're not a certain religion.
So right. So your argument would be, here's how it's affecting me, and
here's how it's affecting me.
Here's how it's affecting me.
I'm going to have to be part of this class.
And I believe that the law is unconstitutional because it unfairly treats me differently, or treats somebody else different.
Than other religions which you dictate.
Right. And then you have a trial about it and present evidence, and then the judge decides whether it's constitutional or not, and then you go through the appellate process. It'll probably only cost you a few $100,000 to raise the whole issue all the way up. But if you could find one of these nice right-wing groups out there, which are about 1 million of them, they're happy to fund something like that, you should be able to sign them up.
Do you think we could get the Attorney General of Pennsylvania to file this?
Well, I don't know what she would say about that.
Because she's Democrat.
I think she probably falls in that political camp.
I'm just saying.
Right.
But, you don't want to try. You don't want to give a fixed price on this.
Don't forget the governor's thinking about availing himself of certain portions of Obamacare, too. All right, my friend. Got to go to break.
All right. Bye.
540-0580. Oh, welcome back. Welcome back. What did I want to tell you guys? I want to remind you about CDL Labor Logistics. 866-293-1880. If you want to look for a regional route, you're looking to drive locally, or you want to drive in a team driving situation with a guaranteed $75,000 a year, and you have a clean CDL or driver's record, call CDL Labor Logistics, 866-293-1880. Be sure and tell them Carl Rominger sent you. Again, that's 866-293-1880. And if you're a driver and you're not sure that that's something you're looking for at the moment, give them a call anyhow and check it out, because you may find that they have better deals than you're currently getting. I had a buddy who's a driver who went to them and was very surprised by the increase in income that they had to offer. They have a lot of really good routes and a lot of good high-paying stuff. They don't do the small stuff, so to speak. I also wanted to thank Harrisburg Beer and Cigar. I went to their Licia event, and they had Sam Licia there hand-rolling. And I have a picture up on Facebook. He kind of looks like Kid Rock, but he does the smoked tobacco that he uses in this one cigar. It was really good. It's kind of unique. So, again, Harrisburg Beer and Cigars. That's over on Union Deposit here in Harrisburg. Sponsor of the show. Great place to get beer. Better place to get cigars than anywhere else I'm aware of. Joe, you're on WHP 580. What's going on? Hey, Joe.
Oh, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call. I have a question about my pension and the lump sum distribution option that I chose with a company that I was with for over 25 years. I made the selection to do the lump sum option in April, and I had another management company set up to take the funds and manage it for me and give me a monthly withdrawal distribution for living purposes.
Okay.
My company delayed the cutting of the lump sum check until now. We're up. They're telling me it's not going to be distributed until July 1. In addition to that, the lump sum, which at one point was $353,000, when they quoted me in writing and gave me the options of how to take it, they are now telling me that they had to recalculate based on current interest, quarterly interest rates, and the lump sum now is down to $287,000. I question why, since this quarter of the market has been very strong and up, why would my distribution go down? They made a lot of excuses and finally said, well, your initial number that we gave you was incorrect.
Okay.
And at this point, I'm not sure, do I believe them, take their word for it, how do I handle it?
Well, I think you need to have somebody who's an expert on pensions recalculate something like that. So I would probably talk with a financial advisor and have them have an actuary look at it, because that's who can calculate those kinds of things very easily. Number two, I just caution you that if they made a mistake, mistakes are just mistakes, and just because somebody quotes you the wrong figure doesn't mean you're entitled to that.
That was one of my biggest questions to you.
I mean, well, listen.
Writing, can I hold their feet to it?
Well, that's the question. And if it's a mistake, okay, if you come to the shop, if you come to the supermarket, and I ring up your order for $100 when it should have been $300, right? And I discover the mistake, you still owe me the money. That's a mistake.
Geez, I feel this isn't the same caliper situation, but I understand.
Well, okay, so we'll just scale up the money a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's the old joke. We know what you do for a living. Now we're just haggling about price. But my point on that is, no, I don't think you can say I don't owe you the money. On the other hand, you can say I was damaged because I made a choice in reliance upon it.
That's exactly what I did.
And therefore, in reliance, I have some damage. So I would have continued to work another 2 or 3 or 5 years if I'd have known that's all I was going to get. And that might create a damaged situation.
If I'm going to have a third party look at this, such as an actuary, what type of information do I request from my company so the actuary has?
I don't know. That's up to them to tell me what they need. In other words, lawyer, would simply go and get the actuary and have the actuary tell me what they want.
I see.
All right?
All right. Thank you very much.
Good luck. Yeah, I don't think you can just... Remember, when people make mistakes, it doesn't mean that it's the old, ha-ha! The bank accidentally deposited $10,000 into my account. It's mine now. Watch what happens when you spend it. Steve, you're on WHP 580. What's going on?
Hey, buddy, I had an interesting thought the other week. I talked to a lot of people who have traveled all over the world, and a friend of mine was telling me about someone they knew who had come out of East Germany before the fall.
Okay.
And they were living in Chicago, and they wanted to move out to California because they were corresponding by letter and said, it really seems lovely out there. Maybe I'll move out there someday. And the person responded back, well, come on, I have a place for you to stay and everything. Well, the next letter came back, where do I fill out the paperwork? Okay, they're coming from the East German mentality. I have to fill out the paperwork everywhere. Okay, now, know ye not to whom you submit yourself subject to, his servant you are. It's an old principle, excuse me, that whoever we submit ourselves to be our master, that's who we serve. Now that we're all under Obamacare, what happens if the government says, we don't want you to move over there, there's not enough doctors? we don't want you to go there, there's not enough hospitals. We don't like the way the population's moving around.
Well, currently you're not allowed to move. You're not allowed to restrict interstate travel. So I'm not sure that's something they could do.
Well, they're kind of backdooring with the trucking industry to try to get everything on rail. They're trying to. They're putting all kind of EPA stuff down to restrict trucking and drivers and new regulations to force things to rail. But hey,
you can always use regulation to force things in a certain direction and get away with it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a famous governmental technique. We're not going to regulate this activity, or we're not going to tell you can't do it. We're just going to make it so onerous that you wouldn't want to do it.
Well, sure. You want to move to this state? Hey, well, here's a fine, $4,000 for your health care next year.
Hey, here's what I tell people all the time on this show. Everybody wants safety. Everybody wants security. Everybody's willing. I don't care if the NSA logs my phone calls because I don't do anything wrong and I feel safer.
I do care.
Well, what I'm saying is that's the general attitude. You know what? If they want to regulate the production of food more, which will make it safer, then I'm in favor of it. If they'll regulate those evil commercial drivers some more so that I don't have to worry about getting smushed by one on 81 so often, I'm in favor of it. So everybody's in favor of regulation whenever it's pitched, and it always is pitched in the name of safety and welfare. And so everybody's in favor of all of it. But
no, we're not all.
Al, you probably are.
Here's the danger of democracy again. You know, you end up having the 5 chickens and 6 wolves voting on what's for dinner.
If it saves one life.
Oh, bull crap.
Right, but that's the mentality of a lot of the people out there. Trust me, I
know.
And so they forget that there's this concept called freedom, and that freedom only exists when sometimes bad things are able to happen.
Well, hey, I ran out of gas the other day. I ran in to get a gas can at Lowe's. $15 for a gallon and a half gas can. Why? Because the companies that used to make the gas cans have been sued out of business because people threw gas on fires and sued them.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, nobody knew that gas is explosive. Wow.
Well, you know, I you know, at least some lawyers made money in that deal. At least, I mean, yeah, you can take that out of it.
Hey, when are they going to regulate the lawyers? That's what I want to know.
We're highly regulated in some respects, and not at all in others.
Yeah. Sure. How many guys in Washington D.C. are attorneys, right?
Not enough some days, but too many most of the time.
Hey, Carl, you have a good day, my friend.
All right, take care. 540-0580. When we get back from the break, we'll make more fun of lawyers. Welcome back. Carl Rummager here, 540-0580. As you know, I'll be here till 3 o'clock answering your legal questions. Again, nice shout out to Braxton Diddy for coming on yesterday, Bob Durgan, to debate police officer versus lawyer. Maybe we can have him back on. Maybe we'll bring him on some Saturday here as well. Always nice to be on the big pipe with Bob Durgan there. And, of course, Bob was supposed to moderate, and some people theorized that had he been there to moderate, it might have gotten a little icier, because you know how Bob likes to set the poor callers up against each other. Eric, you're on WHP 580. What's going on? Hey, Eric.
Yes, Carl. Hello?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, I got a question for you. As you probably see on your computer screen, your producer, I'm going to be charged with harassment. I was told by a police officer that a former girlfriend of mine is filing a citation, a harassment citation against me through a local police department, and I goofed. It's my fault, and I did talk to the police officer last night, and I tried to talk to him, to reason with him, and I didn't get very, very far, which I didn't think I would. But he said it would be filed to the local district justice. My question to you is, while I may be guilty of this, and I'm obviously not going to harass her if I did, I'm not going to harass her anymore. My question to you is there any way to fight this? Is there any way to mitigate? Because he said I was going to be fined. And to be honest with you, I really don't have the money to pay a fine. Of course, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have taken the steps I did. I really didn't harass her. I was just trying to talk to her and calm her down. And I thought everything was fine. And until 2 or 3 days later, the police called me again and said, "Okay, sir, you crossed the line. We're gonna cite you with harassment." Now, is there any way to mitigate this? Can I defend myself?
Well, okay, let's back up.
Okay.
What conduct did you engage in allegedly?
Okay, here's what.
What is it? Don't tell me what you did. Tell me what it's alleged that you did.
That I harassed her. That I stalked her.
Okay. Now let's stop. Those are legal terms.
Okay.
Okay. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
If I was going to harass you, right?
Yeah.
I might throw eggs on your windshield.
Okay.
I might send you 8,000 text messages in one night.
Okay, I sent her a...
Wait, whoa. Okay, but tell me what you did. You want to confess on the air, or can you just tell me what it is alleged that you did?
Alleged, called her, and sent her a couple of emails. That's it.
It's alleged that that's what you did. At a time that she had told you that it's alleged that those were unwanted.
That's correct. She had told me... Yes,
okay.
She did. It's
alleged that she told you. How many confessions are you want to make on the air here today?
I know. Trust me. I'm not happy about this, and I just, if I had to do it all over again.
Are you going to keep calling me now?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to keep calling this show now? You're going to harass the show? What's going on? All right.
I'm not.
So I should just hang up on you and tell you your calls are unwanted, and watch, you'll call right back. Here's my point.
Okay.
First of all, let's start with the proposition that once somebody says you can't call anymore, they mean it, okay?
Correct.
Now, I know some crazy girls, and I've heard of some crazy guys that they don't really follow that, and they don't no doesn't really mean no, but that's, you're not allowed to say that. Anyhow, long story short, once that's pretty clear, and particularly if they have the police officer contact you and say stop, that's probably a big hint.
Yes,
okay?
it is. Yeah.
Big hint. So, the mitigation in something like this, quite often when I represent somebody, will go and say, okay, let's continue the hearing for 6 months.
Okay.
And as long as Dippy-Doo doesn't keep making phone calls or texts for the next 6 months, we'll dismiss the charges at the end.
Ah.
All right?
Okay.
And on the other hand, if he does, then you can charge him for the new thing plus the old thing, and now he's in double the trouble.
Well, see, that's just it. I don't want to get in worse trouble than I'm already. I'm facing a fine.
Actually, you're facing up to 90 days in jail if somebody wanted to give you time in jail.
Well, I asked the officer last night if
the officer's going to recommend a fine.
Well, that's what he's.
The officer's going to. Here's and again, all deference to Braxton Diddy again, but officers have a lot of control. And we actually talked about this on the show yesterday. The judge ultimately makes those decisions. Okay. So if you go in and say, yes, I'm guilty, and the officer says, I'm recommending a fine, or I even told him that a fine was all he would get, the judge is going to go, I have the authority for 90 days. I don't know what you kids are talking about. So, point being is you got a big hammer hanging over your head. Number two, why do we worry so much about this kind of behavior? Because almost every guy that eventually shoots a woman starts where you are and works his way up to it, okay?
Okay.
Very rarely does somebody just walk in and shoot her. It usually starts with kind of like obsessive, harassing behaviors. Possessive might be the term.
Okay. All right. Well, number one, I don't own a gun. I don't want to own a gun, and that's.
Well, that's not what we're talking about, Eric. What we're talking about is getting a little control of yourself here. Okay.
Yes, sir. I will.
And you might want to see a counselor because if you're having these kinds of issues, it's probably important you do that. Anyhow, my point is yes, you can mitigate it. There's lots of ways to do it. But
should I hire an attorney?
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. All right, boss.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Joe, you have a question about grand juries. What's going on?
Good afternoon, Carl. Many, many years ago, before the system we have now with the district magistrates, I sat on a grand jury in Adams County.
Uh-huh.
The very first thing they told us, I'm sure you probably remember how they used to work. We decided if something went to trial or not.
Right.
We were told, point blank, you do not discuss any part of these hearings with anybody, not even in the men's room.
Right.
My question is, and this has bugged me in my mind ever since, how did that reporter get a hold of Jerry Sandusky and break that story?
Oh, well, the Attorney General's office accidentally, quote, accidentally, I put that in quotation marks, put up on their web feed somehow the grand jury presentment early, okay? And then took it back down. But magically a couple news outlets got a hold of it when that happened. Now, the rumor on the street is that a certain reporter or two were given a heads up and told that it would accidentally appear. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, but nobody's ever gotten to the bottom of that yet, although I believe there is actually a special prosecutor looking into it now.
Okay, Mrs. Kane.
Yeah, well, they appointed a guy who actually works for the Lancaster County District Attorney's Office, who's I believe a Republican by stripes. So,
Stedman. Okay, that's something that has been on my mind for a very long time. Only because I was part of that. That was quite an interesting thing to sit there and hear those stories.
Well, you know, those are the things. Is the secrecy of a grand jury is twofold. One is obviously to prevent the bad guys from knowing somebody's looking at them, but more importantly, and the more important argument on secrecy is to prevent people from learning that a potentially innocent person is being investigated. Because many times grand juries choose not to charge somebody.
Yes, we did.
And the mere fact that somebody's being investigated, unfortunately, despite the fact that we're supposedly believing innocence until proven guilty, a large subset of our population thinks that the mere fact that the police charged somebody or even thought about charging somebody means they're guilty.
Okay.
All right, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, boy. Yeah, Harrisburg Beer and Cigar, I want to remind you guys, great place to go. They're not too far away. I like to go, and not it's totally separate company, but I also like to go to Carlisle Beer and Cigar over in Carlisle. So this way, wherever I'm at, I'm always close to some cigars or some beer. Of course, they're not the same company, so let's not confuse them. Some kind of technical legal thing. I don't understand it completely. Also, I just want to thank Jeff Strickland, by the way. He had me shooting yesterday in the Safe Harbor charity shoot over in Carlisle Fish and Game. That's a great club, by the way. If you've never shot at or been to Carlisle Fish and Game, I tell you should stop over there and shoot sporting clays on a Saturday morning or check out their skeet field. Just a nice place. But, yeah, we actually won. I got 22 out of 50, which I was pretty proud of myself because I hadn't shot yet this spring. So, and actually, I always start better and I get worse as time goes on. So that's one of those little issues, 540-058. Of course, we're going to be here for another hour. Steve, what's going on?
Oh, I got a little problem. I'm just having trouble with making ends meet here, and it's getting with I have 2 cars and a motorcycle, and I'm wondering if I can't pay the insurance when I heard I can get in trouble.
Hold on. We'll talk about it after the break here. 540-0580. Carl Rominger answering your legal questions. We'll be here for a full additional hour, so get them queued, get them ready, and I will answer them.